What a morning. It appears that potentially we've just had the second biggest DeFi exploit in history on the BNB chain for $586 million. In today's show I'm going to explain exactly what went down, as this only really took place within the last hour. So I'm coming to you guys fresh with this news. I'm going to explain the situation so far, and on my Twitter I will provide you guys any updates as things tend to unfold. I was actually just having a morning coffee this morning, had my shower, I was relaxing, getting ready to start the day. I had a lovely live stream prep. You guys on Define Analytics and Future Trends, and then I opened my Twitter and I just saw an absolute bombardment of BNB news panic. I saw the BNB price was tanking, there was wallet addresses flicking around from where the hacker was sending funds, and it was just an absolutely crazy morning. So crypto never fails to entertain. Honestly, there's always something happening entertaining in a bad way this time because there was a massive exploit. So let's get into this and look at some of the ramifications. So firstly, it started to appear that there was a 600 million hack. Earlier in the morning when this hack was first announced, actually we thought it was only just an on-chain leverage place. So when I actually first saw this news in the morning, it appeared to just be like a really big bet from a big whale that was betting on an unchained leverage play using BNB as collateral. That's what we thought. But later it started to appear once we looked at the transactions like there was actually a little bit more to it. So what essentially happened was the attacker started spewing funds across liquidity pools to and utilizing multiple bridges. To get across to safer chains, we could actually see on the transaction details on BSC scan that they were doing 1 million BNB transfers at a time. Now if you guys want the context on what 1 million BNB is worth, that is roughly $280 million. That's a $280 million transaction. And there were two transactions totaling $586 million. And we can actually go into his address here on TD Bank and track where his wallets are and where he's transferring funds, and we could see that he has 126 or she, whoever the hacker is or the group, it could be multiple people, $426 million of assets on the BNB chain and $53 million worth of assets on the Ethereum chain. So it's absolutely crazy. This would put it in one of the top 3 DeFi hacks of all time. If we look at the top 10, we had the Ronin network loss at 620 million. We had the wormhole bridge at 320 million. All reports now are pointing to this being above $500 million. Of course this can change because funds can be recouped, certain funds to be frozen, etc. So and some could even be returned if there was a white hat hacker. All of that information hasn't come to us yet. All we have right now is the raw information based on the transactions and the BBB scan, and we could see that it's around 580 million, but this would put it in at number 2, which is pretty crazy. I mean, this makes it one of the greatest DeFi hacks of all time, and it really just continues to spell the vulnerabilities in some of these bridges. And the vulnerabilities that we have are on these 01 blockchains. So for the space it's certainly not good. So what happened straight after the hack was announced to have take place is BNB announced that they were pausing the BSC chain. This is something we rarely see with major L1 chains. We basically never see them shut down. The only time that they shut down is if you're called Solana, but BNB today actually shut down. Then they needed to pause the network to work out what was happening and to put a halt to a potential exploit that was taking place. Then just a few minutes later, this is just 21 minutes ago, they confirmed that they suspended about the network after determining a potential protocol exploit. So the rumors that it was just a whale, balancing their positions or opening up a leveraged play, were kind of dispelled a little bit after they officially said they are determining a potential exploit. All systems are now contained. We are immediately investigating the potential vulnerability. We know the community will assist and help freeze any transfers. Now what actually happened was, if I can get to it right now, USDT was blacklisted. So when USDT is typically blacklisted, this tends to indicate that a potential exploit is occurring and a hack is occurring, because otherwise why would you want to blacklist a particular asset? So the USDT was blacklisted. We could see this on Ethereum because if you enter the word blacklist on the code, you can see that it comes out as a success, meaning it's officially blacklisted. So BNB Chain said they wanted to thank all node service providers for their quick and attentive response. This is actually very crazy because we don't often see one chain's pausing because of an exploit. This hardly ever happens. In fact, this is the first instance off the top of my head where I can think that has happened in recent times. So it's very, very, very crazy. And Chainlink God also affirmed that sentiment, saying this is the first time a blockchain has been halted because of a bridge exploits. Stay safe out there, friends. 2 million BNB exploited. Now Jeff the Dunker did a very, very, very good recap thread which I highly recommend you guys check out if you want to stay updated with this situation. And yep, we're going to get, I see the comments, we're going to get into the price. And the price levels that I'm looking at in a second. We can see at first they did think it was just a whale collateralizing against his ETH position. And he said they've sucked several lending markets. Dry activity looks kosher right now. Currently. Maybe he even said maybe Binance themselves are pumping DeFi lending rates. Currently there's a very high APY for stable coins, high APY for certain markets, and an upwards JPEG. So he was tracking actively this situation over the last couple of hours, and then he realized this didn't look like a natural trade. He said, oh my. Another 1 million be withdrawn since I started this thread. They swapped a small percentage of Binance Peg USD and swapped through Stargate. The whole position is net short, being MB net long ethers. They try and kind of shift funds around onto the Ethereum network. He said the activity doesn't really look like a hack, but now it's blacklisted by Tether. Curious how they're getting in front before Binance if a hack. Seems like Binance themselves were hacked. Otherwise, very big dark money sitting in BNB waiting to exit. Interestingly, there's now a lot of tattered money in the legitimate D5. Positions could just be together taking extreme precaution, and now he issued a summary saying as of right now they have around 50% of their coins sitting on BSC directly in their wallet. Some mid-8 figures waiting in Bridgeland yet to be claimed too. Looks like the smarter people have picked up this story. I was tracking the movement due to a huge influx of USD on Curve. We are beneficial exposure as the L peers, and then he said yeah, guess this is real. The attacker still has 410 million or 550 million assets on the BNB chain. So if we actually go and we track wallet on TD Bank, he is shifting funds across to Ethereum. So in the beginning this was closer to 500 million if his Ethereum holdings are now sitting on at 50 million and there is now 426 million on BNB. So they're actively siphoning our funds off chain. Although you have to note that since BNB actually paused the chain and said that the exploit has been halted, that means future funds are safe so that there's no risk of future funds being exploited here. We're just dealing with the current ones which are already exploited, which still puts it as the second biggest hack of all time. So 580 million is not something to snuff at. That is a massive, massive, massive hack. And Peck Shield said apparently there are 2 huge reward claims with each claiming 1 million BNB in total and 586 million in rewards are claimed from its token hub. So the exploit actually happened not to a bridge but to the token hub, which is quite interesting that it occurred there. So let's have a look at the price now and have a look at how BNB is responding. And then also look at how the markets are responding to this in general and try and verify whether this can have a potential price impact. Of course, if the whale just off the top of my head starts to dump these assets, of course that is going to cause some sort of price impact. $580 million it is a lot of money. So it would affect the market to some extent. However, I do think it is also an amount of liquidity that most market makers could absorb. So I wouldn't say we're a huge risk, although at the same time it can cause liquidation cascade, which potentially could mean if they do dump some of these assets depending on what assets they trade in and out of it could cause a potential liquidations which can have a further impact on the price. So let's look at the price right now just before we look at the BNB price and the Bitcoin price as well. I just want to remind you guys that we are actually starting our trading competition in just a few days, I think next week. So you can win up to $100,000 in cash, which is pretty crazy. It's our biggest trading competition ever and I'm going to be trading against Kyle. Showed and ran the Bombay Trillionaire. It is going to be a lot of fun. So to actually take part in this trading competition to win in the total prize pool of $100,000 in cash, you will need a Bybit account, about to Bybit account, and a Banter Get account. As long as you have those two accounts signed up under Crypto Boundary and you're trading on them, you're eligible to take part in this massive training camp starting in a few days. So it links in the description. If you would like to sign up and get involved, it will be a lot of fun. Could my first potential playing this training camp be short? Well, let's work that out. Right now I'm actually looking at the BNB chart. So if we look at the price action, we can see that we actually broke out before this exploit of this major area of resistance. We could see this area here broke out. We had the diagonal trend line break. I'm not a huge fan of diagonal trendline breaks, but we did have quite a low RSI at the time and then we had the retest of this level. So it was a pretty good long position at the time. However, we did get the extreme candle reversal. Upon the news of the BNB hack breaking, when some of the rumors started to circulate an hour ago, we had a huge reversal of this pattern. Now if we draw this diagonal line at below, of course we could take the horizontal ray as well to affirm some key levels here. We could see that currently we bounced on this diagonal support, which is a good sign because it means that there is still a support for buying the token. And at the same time we know B has a lot of liquidity, especially on the Binance exchange. So I wouldn't say that there's a huge liquidity risk here, but I would say there is a panic risk because we know markets are emotional. We know people do tend to get emotional during these times. I think maybe a potential issue as well, and it can be a benefit in some cases, but one issue is the fact that they could obviously easily just shut down the chain down. I mean, when no one had no illusions as to how centralized BNB is, but I think that just reiterates the point that could potentially scare some people, and I do think whenever there's a looming threat of a mass amount of tokens being dumped onto the market, there's always the threat of prices going down. So in terms of BNB, certainly not something I'd personally be longing here. It would certainly worry me being in a long position. It would worry me being in any position right now because this market is so not necessarily manipulated, but so volatile due to recent events. So definitely if we break this structure, this horizontal support here as well as this diagonal trend line, yeah, B could definitely have another leg down, and those levels would be $257 to $266. So I wouldn't say that's out of the question just yet. For BNB, we definitely have to keep our eyes on this token. Interestingly, BNB has been the strongest relative performer on the market are compared to Ethereum down 72% from highs, are compared Bitcoin down 72% from highs. BNB is only down 46%. So 52% now. So B performed better than most of these tokens historically. So when your leading altcoin does take a hit to that can have ramifications across the rest of the market because Bitcoin is a BNB, essentially let the market in many ways, and it's one of the coins that I personally track when I enter and exit old coin positions because of its relative strength. That was the Ethereum pre-merge, but it's always been BNB the entire way across, and we can see this coincides with the general market dump. This seems to have been fueled by this BNB hack, just added a little bit of murkiness to the market. However, if we do compare this to Bitcoin's price response, we can see Bitcoin did break one of its key zones at 20,000 and now it's broken below as well. So I'd say the reason DMB crashed is obviously partly to do with the hack, and that probably has started to affect some other old coins as well. But also it is being led by a Bitcoin cool-off, following the Nasdaq going down 0.79% today as well after it had its massive rally. So we did want Bitcoin to hold above $20,000 that have been extremely bullish for the alts however, and we did see a break below. Someone just said he thought the training camp started today. The trading comp registration starts today. I'm not sure if the actual trading compass started yet. If it has, I'm out of the loop. But let me just check. I believe it starts. You can actually register. You can register now. Yeah. So registrations are open. So, and now it's pretty exciting. 100,000 is the biggest comp we've done by far. So that is pretty exciting. Remember, you would need a bucket and a buyer account to take part of that and we'll be trading all throughout the next few weeks. It's going to be a lot of fun. But right now I am. I've got my eyes clearly affirmed to this BNB price chart and I'm looking at this next range. We have this range from 0.013 on the BNB Bitcoin chart to 0.0142, which I'm keeping a close eye on as well. That was a range that we were in that we broke back out of, but now we just did a negative retest to the downside of this range following the exploits. So I do think this has potential to affect all coins. But I wouldn't be panicking yet. I think the number one thing that alleviated some of my panic was the fact that they have secured the chain from a potential continuation of the exploit. It would have been a real issue. If the 586 million became 700 million and then a billion and then it just kept going, the fact that they were able to pause it and acted fairly quickly is a positive sign for Binance, and that's probably the reason why the bleeding stemmed on the BNB front. And the other thing I just want to note is that there could still be new news that breaks here. I could be wrong because all I'm doing at the moment is making an assumption based on the data that I currently have. I can't tell you exactly how the exploit took place until a post-mortem has been conducted and we're going to see auditors and BNB themselves come out with a post-mortem in probably a few hours. That will give us a lot more detail. So I recommend just staying on top of the latest news. One way you can do this is by following me on Twitter. I will be posting updates. The other way you can follow this is by following Jeff the Dunker's thread. He has been updating you guys as well. So just make sure to stay updated on Twitter because I would love to jump on and do another stream, but it's not realistic. So if there's another major event I can keep you guys aware of. But I'm just searching now to see if there's any update in the last 10 minutes since I started the stream to give to you guys. I don't think there is I think it's a confirmed hack. They responded very quickly and they have seemingly stemmed the bleeding. So I think that is all that has happened so far. Yeah, seems to be as well. Sam will explain. CZ should also come out and explain as well. But yeah, this is pretty crazy guys. Pretty crazy exploit, one of the biggest exploits of all time, and it's never good when we see things like this for the space. It just gives the space a bad look and it just continues to kind of erode trust in the space. After what has been a very difficult year, so it kind of just adds more fuel to the fire in a way, but it is nice to see at the same time the BNB price holding up okay. It isn't a huge catastrophe yet, although it still is a pretty big decline. Like we can never deny a 4% pullback, 4.8% pullback from one of crypto's strongest old coins. At one point it was 6.5%, but hopefully those key levels actually end up holding. Blockchain is supposed to be safe. Well, in many ways it is, and in many ways it's a transparent ecosystem. And in many ways the transparency creates an element of safety because everything is available to be seen from everyone. But also at the same time, it does open the door for exploits like this because it's code at the end of the day, and an encode is only as vulnerable as the way it's coded. So if there's a slight exploit that comes to light due to a coding malfunction or smart contract malfunction, yeah, then I guess blockchain isn't safe in many cases. But I guess that's the risk you run when you're trying to create a decentralized economy, and that's kind of still the stage we are in, the relative nascency of decentralization. So, still love my BNB? Yeah, no, I love BB as well. Honestly guys, BNB is probably one of my favorite tokens due to its relative strength, due to the fact you get exchange upside, due to the fact you get upside to the BSC chain as well. However, events like this certainly do make you want to take a step back and just reassess things a little bit. But yeah, as a whole I do like BNB and I love the ecosystem, but this is not what you want to see. At least, not in the short term. It's quite a bad look. I said keep an eye on Sam. Sam sees that son's tweets. He is a very good account, so I recommend doing that as well. See misspelling it. He does research at Paradigm, even following him. What am I doing? So yeah, follow him as well. You can stay updated on Twitter. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you found this video helpful and maybe gave you guys a little bit of clarity as to what was happening over on Binance, and make sure to smash the like button, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I truly appreciate everyone coming out here and hanging out with me every single day. You guys know I stream every day. This was a last-minute stream that we just threw together. I did have another amazing stream plan, but I think this definitely takes a precedent due to the severity of the exploit. So, I'm not too scared either, Melbourne. I'm not scared. Although I do think it just highlights some key vulnerabilities in blockchain, and also there's a risk, there's definitely a risk of the market taking a slight hit here. But I wouldn't say the risk is monumental in the fact that we should all be scared of a huge collapse or anything like that. Someone said nice couch, unfortunately it's a green screen. I wish it was. I wish it was my couch, although it's kind of a dark room, kind of a dark under-pressing room. So I'm moving house next week in real life actually. So I'll have a new real studio behind me, which is exciting. Alright, appreciate everyone for hanging out, and I'm holding all my BNB. I'm not panic selling my BNB by any means. Don't you worry about that, and I'll see you in the next video please.